So Paradice Investment Management started in March 2000, where we got $30 million, which went into a small cap fund. Over those first 2 years, we raised about $250 million, and then we closed the fund, and we turned that $250 million into about $2 billion over the last 15-year period. So that represents compounding around about 17% per annum against the benchmark, which was up 5%, so 12% annualised outperformance.
So when I started, it was solely a small cap fund. And what we found is because the product had done so well, there was a lot of demand from our clients for additional products. So the next cab off the rank in terms of products was a mid-cap fund. And so I set that up with my colleague John Lake, who I'd worked with previously. And in terms of the opportunity in mid-cap, if you go back 9 years ago now, you had a situation where companies would do really well as small caps, and then they'd move into that top 100 outside of the universe, and then they'd basically fall into no man's land. And at that time, there was only really one other product in the market that we'd consider to be a mid-cap fund. So we saw the opportunity there. If you actually look at it as well, 70% of companies that are mid-caps actually used to be small caps, so we had a really good familiarity with those companies. So on the back of that, we set up the product. It's been going almost 9 years now, and during that time we've produced absolute performance of over 11%, and we've outperformed our index each year by almost 8%, which has been really good. And considering as well, that actually includes the obvious damage that happened through the GFC period. The next step beyond that was to start a large cap product, and once again in that situation, Troy Angus was someone that John and I had worked with. We knew him very well. We knew he was a like-minded investor, and he came across and he slotted in extremely well, set up their product, which has gone on to do well.
What's interesting is the philosophy of the business is that we like to have limited FUM so that we can get performance. So early last year, early 2014, we decided that the small cap fund at $2 billion was too big, so we gave back $800 million. And what's significant about that is that it focuses our attention on getting performance on small amounts of money, because that's what's so important for us, is to make sure that our clients, which are wanting performance, they're not wanting us to be the biggest fund in the world, they just want to get performance, and that's the focus of the business. So the three funds are shut, Aussie funds are shut. We opened up a global small to mid-cap fund 5 years ago. That's generated 20% annualised return over the last 5 years. It's currently around about $1.5 billion. They've taken around about $800 million in funds. So the compounding of that, which is really important for us, of performance, has led to that increase in FUM. What's really important is the way that we manage money, and so with the global guys and also the Aussie guys, we have a really big focus on capital preservation. We're not really interested in generating 40% return 1 year and then down 20 or 30% the next year. What we're interested in doing is over a long period of time, for example, in the small cap fund, is generating 15% return annualised. And that's the same with the global guys. Their target is to generate 15% return annualised without a huge amount of volatility.
If you look at the history of the firm, we've always been an institutional investor. We've done very well. With the advent of the global product, it's given us an opportunity to get out there and to allow retail investors to invest within the firm. And as you've seen, the product's done very well. I myself am an investor in the global fund, and we're happy that we're now able to provide the opportunity to retail investors.
It's hard for retail investors to be able to get exposure themselves to global stocks worldwide, and the best way to do that is through a fund such as ours. If you go and try and invest, say, somewhere down in South America, you just don't know what you're going to get. It's a bit like going and investing in some of the small companies in Australia, especially on the resources side, that there's a lot of risk associated with that. But we have people working on it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, researching those particular stocks to avoid those risks that you might fall into if you're a small retail investor trying to do it yourself.
So whenever anyone walks into our office, the first thing they'll see is we have a sheet of paper. It contains the absolute performance of all of our funds, and it also contains the relative performance of those since inception. So be it an investor that we're seeing, be it a company that we're seeing, that is, for us, that's our most important message. And in terms of the performance, if you look over time, we're very proud. We've got very good absolute performance. We've got very good relative performance. But the thing that we're most proud of is if you look at all of our funds, we have our best performance relative to index in periods where the markets are weak. So ultimately, we can't control what's happening in the markets, but if we always have an eye to capital preservation, we can ensure that during those difficult times, we do our best to maintain the capital of our clients.